gosh, what a dumb, stupid, dumb video. Oh, hey guys, sorry I didn't see you there. I'm a little preoccupied right now. You see that J. Cole fan 128 guy I told you guys about in the past? He made a video directed towards me as to why I should make a video about J. Cole. And I would watch it, but let's be honest, all this guy wants is my time and attention, and I'm not gonna give it to him. And I'm not gonna start today. So instead of talking about J. Cole, let me tell you guys a story. When I was a little kid, my parents were super excited to have me. They were like, hell yeah, this is gonna be the best baby of all time. Nothing's gonna top this baby. And then I was born. And long story short, everyone f***ing despised me. Yeah, Cherry Bomb and I have a lot in common. You know, out of the entirety of Tyler's discography, for me, Cherry Bomb has always been the biggest oddball. Of course, the real biggest oddball is the Grinch EP, not only because it's a Christmas record, but also because it is by far the best thing Tyler has ever made, and putting it on the same playing field as literally any other album ever created is just not fair. For the three people who have no clue who Tyler is, here's a quick rundown. Tyler Okonma, better known as Tyler the Creator, is a rapper, singer, producer, designer, and the list goes on. But he mainly gained his following from his rap career and his now defunct music collective, Odd Future. He grew in popularity especially from his albums Bastard and Goblin, and he continued to make music until he released the album of today's discussion, Cherry Bomb, on April 13th, 2015. It was Tyler's third studio record, and while he had experimented with genre hopping in the past, here Tyler fully embraced genres such as punk rock and neo-soul. The reason it sticks out like a sore thumb to me is that it doesn't follow any storyline like his first albums Bastard, Goblin, and Wolf did, and it doesn't get deeply personal like Flower Boy or Igor. Instead, it's like Tyler said, "F it, I'm not making anything personal, I'm just gonna make songs I like." Actually, this is exactly what he said, and it's exactly what he did. God, this album was railed when it came out. From music critics, it received good to mediocre scores, with the exception of The Needle Drop, who gave the album its most notable negative review with a 3. But the real backlash came from the fans, who, from the sounds of their screams I can still hear today, hated it. They not only hated it, but they hoped it would die a horrible death. Of course, nowadays, this album is a bit more respected when viewed in context with Tyler's artistic growth, and any hardcore fan of his would die defending this record. But I feel like there's still a lot of people out there that really don't like this album. So I thought I'd take it upon myself to look at some reasons people don't like the album and answer the age-old question, Tyler the Creator, Cherry Bomb. Is it that bad? You see, it's funny because that's the title of the video. Pretty much I'm going to look at criticisms I've heard about the album, whether they're popular or not, and give my 2 cents about them. And even though I have a Cherry Bomb poster hanging up in my room, don't think I'm going to go easy on this album. This is from a critical point of view, not the bubbly Tyler the Creator fan that is lodged deep within my soul point of view. While diversity can be a great thing in a record, if done poorly, it won't fly over that well. From what I've heard and what Tyler himself has noted as a reason people disliked the album was how all over the place the album felt. With not a clear flow from genre to genre, especially in the beginning of the record, most listeners weren't able to grasp exactly what Tyler was trying to do on the record. And after listening to the album from front to back multiple times, I can safely say this album lacks cohesion. Like, severely lacks cohesion. I think Tyler said it best in his video Flower Boy: A Conversation, where he pretty much describes how most listeners weren't prepared to hear the quick jumps between a punk rock song like Death Camp and songs like Pilot, which were dominated with loud synths that just reek of the 80s. Here's the best way I can describe it. In comparison to all of Tyler's other albums, they all have a distinctive sound to it except for Cherry Bomb. Flower Boy has a very distinct sound. Even Goblin, as much as I hate that album, has a distinct sound. You know that when you play these records, you're going to get a certain vibe. That's the exact opposite with Cherry Bomb. Now, I'm not here to say that Cherry Bomb's diversity makes it a bad album, because it doesn't. Plenty of albums are a little too diverse and suffer the same problem, but they can still be great albums. That's why when I listen to Cherry Bomb, to get the most enjoyment out of it, I don't go into it expecting a cohesive record with just one sound. Instead, I approach it like I would a playlist with almost every style of music on it, just so that I can expect a little bit of everything. Cherry Bomb is one of the few albums I don't feel guilty of hitting the shuffle button rather than playing from the first track to the last track. Besides, it's not like I'm missing out on any grand story by shuffling the album. He drives to a movie theater and watches a movie.
That's it.
That's another thing about this album. This is sort of a side critique, but at the same time, Tyler was creating a huge storyline that connected each one of his albums released before Cherry Bomb. If you want to read more about this storyline, I'll leave a link in the description to a good article that tries its best to summarize the whole thing. Anyways, a lot of Tyler's fans were looking forward to the latest installment of the Wolf cinematic / auditory universe, but instead they got an album where Tyler rapped about being rich and rebelling against the system, dude. Some of his fans weren't too happy and completely dismissed the record because of this. Honestly though, I feel that is more the fans' fault rather than Tyler's. They already created an expectation that this already convoluted storyline would continue on from album to album as if it wasn't completed already. Besides, at this point in Tyler's career, he was clearly over his edgy persona from the past, and that correlated over to the music too. He definitely was trying to create stuff that was more ambitious and professional.
Look, this album might not take place during the Wolf storyline, but trust me, it's just as good. Like I said, he goes to the movies.
Yo, girlfriend look like my mom.
Probably the most popular critique of this album is that the final mix is just, in nice words, half-assed. People say, oh, I can't hear what this guy's saying. And yes, I agree, on some songs you can't hear what Tyler is saying at all. But, in my opinion, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I mean, sure, the instrumentals on a lot of these songs are either the same volume or a tad louder than Tyler's vocals, and for a lot of people that's really annoying. But, me personally, I've not had that much trouble trying to hear what Tyler says on this record. However, one of the songs that I feel like no one really talks about on this album that has just atrocious mixing is Run, featuring Chaz Bundick and Schoolboy Q.
What the is happening in this song?
Seriously, this song, both on a mixing and production standpoint, is just so muddled. It feels like there is so much stuff that was just crammed into this song for no reason whatsoever. And maybe, just maybe, this song was meant to be 3 minutes long and not just 1 minute long, and Tyler had all these cool instrumental ideas that he just decided, well, why not throw it all in? It creates this chaotic tone in the track that isn't very appealing. Chaotic tracks are good when the chaos is gradually built up or it's organized. Here, it's neither. Plus, the mixing on Tyler's vocals make his voice sound really warped, so that makes it even harder to hear him over this wall of noise. Now, this makes it sound like I hate the mixing as a whole on this album, but like I said before, the mixing isn't an issue for me. Sure, songs like Pilot and Keep the O's can be pretty loud and overblown, but I know that this is somewhat intentional, so I can let it slide. Actually, some songs in here sound amazing, and I could not ask for a better mix, specifically on songs like Buffalo, Find Your Wings, and Two Seater. Everything in these songs, all up to the level of volume each instrument and vocal line is put at, is done to near perfection, for my ears at least. Especially at the beginning of Find Your Wings before the singers come in, you can really hear how crisp and pristine this track sounds. It was a huge step up for Tyler at the time after albums like Wolf and Goblin, where more muddy production and mixings were prominent. The mixing on Find Your Wings alone showed that Tyler was significantly growing as an artist.
But even though Find Your Wings sounds great, by far the best mixing on the album has got to go to the title track Cherry Bomb. It's great for car rides. It's just so good. Yeah, crazy enough, I've actually heard people make the argument that Cherry Bomb is just a worse Igor. Spoiler alert, these people are fucking dumb.
Yeah, I know this isn't a popular critique, but I've heard it enough times that I have to talk about it. Anyone who even thinks you can compare Igor to Cherry Bomb is obviously looking at both albums on face value. The argument here is usually, well, they both aren't mixed that well, so they sound the same. Which is just such a dumb thing to think. Look, I said earlier that the mixing on Cherry Bomb is not that bad to me. That doesn't include the majority of people who listen to the album, where a lot of those listeners think the mixing is really bad. But here's my point. The main reason people don't like Cherry Bomb's mixing is because they felt it was not intentional. They think Tyler just didn't care when it came to making the final product sound as great as possible. Personally, I somewhat disagree because I know Tyler cares way too much about his production to just half-ass it right at the finish line. But you know, that's whatever. That's just how people feel. But people who say that the mixing on Igor has the same half-assed feeling obviously miss the point of that album. Igor is a very conceptual conceptual record, and one of the concepts it follows is its sound. And surprise, surprise, the sound is highly inspired by neo-soul music from the 70s and 80s.
Now, I don't know if you guys know already, but I'm sort of a math whiz, so let's subtract 1970 from 2020, and oh my god, that's 50 years ago.
Yes, Tyler wanted the album to feel old. No song from the 70s or the 80s had the clear production of today. Therefore, when a song on Igor sounds muffled or the mix of something sounds off, it's a pretty safe bet to assume it was done on purpose. Also, the songs on Igor sound nothing like the songs on Cherry Bomb, even if they both go for a more soulful color palette. You can't tell me that the songs Death Camp or The Dark Stains would fit anywhere on Igor.
And that's all the critiques I'm going to talk about. Really, I could have chose more, but I'm lazy. So I've talked this whole time about how other people feel about the album, but what do I think? Well, I gotta say, this album is pretty good. That's it.
I really like this album for what it is, but it's never stood out to me as one of Tyler's best records. Like I said before, Grinch EP is best. In all seriousness though, while this album is good, I never felt the same feelings towards it like I did with a Wolf or a Flower Boy or especially Igor. Cherry Bomb has always felt like a bunch of loose Tyler the Creator songs that sadly didn't land on a more cohesive and thought out record. But I know this album has sort of a cult following, and Tyler once called it his favorite album he's made just because he made the album entirely for himself and he finally made the music he wanted to make. I don't know if that's changed to be Flower Boy or Igor for him over time, but if it's still Cherry Bomb, I would totally understand why. This album is the perfect time capsule of what Tyler stood for at the time. It's loud, obnoxious, flawed, beautiful, intricate, and so much more. But most importantly, if you watch any interviews of Tyler around this record's release or the Cherry Bomb documentary, you can just tell that Tyler had the time of his life making this album. I don't think I've ever seen Tyler happier. Sure, I think he makes better music now, but I feel like there wasn't any stress on Tyler to drop a modern day classic. He was just making the music he wanted to while living his best life, and that's why I respect the album Cherry Bomb so much.
So to answer the question, is Tyler the Creator's Cherry Bomb that bad? I'd have to say no. But if I was going to rate it, I'd probably give it a the title track scares me out of 10. Well, that's pretty much the end of the video. I don't really have a clever joke this time around, so I guess I'll see you guys later. Looks like some sort of letter. Dear Luke, I know you don't know me, but I need you to help me out. I can't explain much through this letter, so I'll just tell you this. I need you to go to a secret, undisclosed location that is most known for its secretivity and its undisclosedness. There will be something important at this spot that you must see. Please, Luke, don't let me down. From V. That's pretty weird. And also really sketchy. And will probably kickstart some weird storyline that nobody cares about. Now let's do it.